So let's keep going. Let's go to the working group 3 update. I believe this is Maria and Henrik.
Yes, and I will start. So working group 3, that is on the standardized protocols for new occupational data collection. And we have been 7 task groups covering a wide field of areas. And so far, working group 3 has provided 8 original publications that are already published within the OMEGANet area, and more papers are underway. 3 OMEGANet webinars have been conducted, as well as 2 workshops, and 2 scientific presentations have been given.
Henrik, do you mean to present something? To show a presentation? Because you're not.
Sorry. Thank you. Can you hear me now, Ingrid?
Yes.
Sorry, and you can see the presentation?
Yeah, but not in the presentation mode. Okay, there you go.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
You got the messages orally. So I go further to the key messages. We have just finished our plenary or session, working group 3 session, and Maria and I will try to highlight the key messages. And I will start with the key messages to other researchers in the field. And that is the young mothers. Key messages for researchers are that the birth cohorts, this is a well-established resource that should be utilized, and it could provide important contributions to our understanding of the parents' health. But it's underutilized and should be used, and it can provide insight into the life course perspective, and especially windows of vulnerability around conception, birth, and the early years of the children. And but what one should be aware of is that this is very dependent on the welfare systems that differs across Europe, that might modify any associations we find. So this should be accounted for as well as used to generate new insights. So, and there are many strong arguments for repurposing these birth cohort data. And when we move to skin diseases, these were divided focusing on contact dermatitis and skin cancer related to UVR exposure. And with respect to contact dermatitis, there are many different tools to assess this disease, and one should be careful before deciding on which to use. Immunoinflammatory biomarkers may add much to the clinical data for this disease. And with respect to UVR exposure, focus is on outdoor workers, and most research so far have focused on summertime exposure, but one should also focus on UV exposure during spring and fall, because sufficiently high exposure levels to affect the skin are also seen during this season. And finally, there are some evidence on the effect on safety preventive interventions, but more research is needed within this field. My system is a bit slow. It's frozen. Okay, then we move to psychosocial factors and key messages for research. And that is that studies so far have used exposure assessment measurements of work stress that may not cover all aspects of this, and more comprehensive stress assessment instruments are needed. And also there might be need for intervention studies, at least for those psychosocial exposure with a well-defined association to health outcomes. And I'm sorry, my system is a little bit slow, changing from one slide to the next. I'm trying and trying.
Do you want me to try to share?
I don't think you have the presentation.
Yeah, Maria sent the presentation.
Yes, but that was without the highlights. So, but of course it's better. So something happened here. Migrant workers. So with respect to the migrant research, there's very few long-term cohorts, and we should try to set them up. And I think mixed methodology is an important addition to standard EP studies, mainly because they make better handle the barriers that might be to migrant population due to language problems and lack of trust. And of course, translation of questionnaires is crucial here. And then we come to the working hours. We had an interesting discussion of this presentation. I think the take-home message is that don't start new studies or make decisions before you have read the relevant literature, especially the chapters on exposure assessment, because that is the Achilles heel of studies conducted so far. And I think I got all the way through, and Maria now will take over. Or I'm sorry, I missed Hans Martin's presentation.
Yes, this is it, Henrik.
This is it. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah. So health is an ambitious concept, and researchers should provide a rationale for the health indicators they examine. And furthermore, that health cannot be treated as simple, independent variables. And the causal paths leading or between health, poverty, and staying employed in old age might be quite complicated, which one should take care of in the analysis and interpretations. And finally, epidemiology should attempt to identify the mechanisms suggested in qualitative research within this field. So, no, I think I've been all the way through.
Yeah, thank you. Will you share your screen, Ingrid? So,
Yes, and please move on
Yeah. Which slides?
to where we come to research, to messages to stakeholders. After this one, the number 9.
Mhm.
So there's a message from the healthy aging group that there is a risk for people who already have poor health to being trapped in employment in a way which is not good for equality and health, and there is a need for research, but there is also a need for further research on the impact of work on the roles of health. Next, please. And for key messages to policy with regard to psychosocial determinants, the key message is, I think that there are some very consistent associations reported still, and this is a huge disease burden, but still there is a lack of implementation of the current knowledge. Next, please. With regard to the young workers, working mothers, this is largely neglected topic, and there's a huge importance of the societal context, especially the national security systems and welfare systems, although this is underexplored. Next, please. And with regard to occupational skin diseases, there's a need for much more effective monitoring systems, and to recognize that occupational skin disease is often a chronic disease, it's not an injury, and also the importance of a disease burden of skin cancer as an occupational cancer. Next. There are some strong messages from the migrant workers that these jobs are often dirty, dangerous, and demeaning, and that there is less access also to occupational safety and health protection. Next, please. And key needs with regard to research for young workers, it's really to use the existing knowledge, but also link up different disciplines, including those investigating welfare systems and economies, so linking occupational epidemiology with social epidemiology. Next, please. For occupational skin disease, there is a need to interact more with national and international institutes and registries for better monitoring, but also collaboration with technical expertise, and for intervention studies, for instance, with regard to reducing the exposure to UV light. Next, please. And for the psychosocial factors, more inclusion of a variety of different occupations would be useful, especially when investigating if burnout is is part of a mediation, and also a stronger collaboration with basic clinical research could help disentangle the pathways from work-related stress to depression. Next. And the Healthy Aging Group highlighted that the current research is focused only in a few European countries, and there's really a need to include information from other countries, especially to cover the diversity in different retirement schemes and welfare systems to really disentangle the associations. And I think this may be the last one.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Oh, super. Many thanks, Henrik and Maria. And thank you, Ingrid, for helping with the slides. We can have time for one question for Working Group 3. I don't see any questions. So we just had a nice long session this morning.